Obviously, Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, absolute no doubt is probably. I'd say both of them would probably be off your board within the first 3 rounds in most drafts. Um, everybody else, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I really don't. I wish I could say I did, but I don't.
Hitting on the
Yeah,
first two, Andrews is number one tight end in fantasy. I don't think there's any question there. I think he's over Kelsey. I think Kelsey is going to get a lot of attention, especially in a division where every defense got better. I think that you can get wide receiver 1 production out of Mark Andrews, and he should be the first tight end taken in every fantasy draft. I think Lamar Jackson is quarterback 2. I think it goes Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Before he got hurt last year, he put up back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. I mean, that's insane production out of your quarterback. He's coming back with a chip on his shoulder after all this contract talk and everybody, saying it doesn't have an agent. He shouldn't step on the field again. He just went about his business. So, I mean, 1,000 yards on the ground, 3,500 yards passing, 25 touchdowns. That's going to be the first or second quarterback in fantasy football. So I think he's number 2 for me easily.
What's kind of, I would say, puzzling to me is how do you approach drafting these wide receivers? Rashad Bateman, probably wide receiver 1. Duvernay had his chances. Isn't Duvernay a punt returner as well?
Yeah.
So you do have that available if you target somebody like Devin Duvernay. James Proche, I don't even know how you pronounce his name. Don't draft him unless you're hard on injuries or bye weeks, and the dude went off for 3 touchdowns last week. Draft him the week after. That's probably about the only time you'll draft that guy. There's not really much else to say about Baltimore. I do think they're going to be a pretty decent team. Their defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. I would want to go rewind myself back to talk about the Browns as well. The Browns are going to have a hell of a defense. They're going to keep them in some games. I think having the Browns defense the way it is, the Browns offensive line the way it is, all the more reasons to draft those types of players that are in their backfield. Like I said, you're probably going to get a lot of production out of both Chubb and both Chubb and Kareem Hunt there in the backfield at Cleveland. I don't want to backpedal there, but talking about defenses, Cleveland's probably got one of the best defenses in the league. And they're going to keep them in a lot of games. Clock management, run the ball.
I think I'm really high on Baltimore. I know I just talked about those 2, and we'll get into the other ones here. J.K. Dobbins, I love it. I love the risk that he puts out there. People are going to be hesitant. He's coming off the injury. But I think he's one of those guys. There's a couple players here right around running back 20, those back-end RB2s that I'm really excited about because they don't cost you too much. They may be the 3rd running back you're taking in drafts. And I think J.K. Dobbins has top 10 upside. Like, I have him right there kind of in a category by themselves with Breece Hall. Like, the situation that they're in, the volume they could get, like, he could have 250 carries and 70 targets. Like, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. They don't have to bring anybody else in. And this team rushes the ball more than any team in the NFL over the last 3 seasons. Last year, they had the 2nd most games missed for injury of anybody. I mean, offensive line, cornerback, running backs. Jackson went down for some games. They were so beat up that I don't even think you can look at last season. And on that same note, because of those injuries, I think Tyler Beatty is also an interesting pick here as he's not even on the depth chart, but I think that he could get some carries. Mike Davis couldn't get the job done in Atlanta. He lost his job to a wide receiver in Cordero Patterson. Justice Hill wasn't impressive with the full workload last season. So I think that Beatty, as a rookie coming in behind 2 running backs coming off season-ending injuries, could be a nice stash or watch list player